Hey folks, it's Mr. Fly here, hope you're well. Out and about today on this bit of a miserable day actually, on the big old new Suzuki V-Strom 1050 XT that I've been lucky enough to be borrowing from Suzuki UK for the last couple of weeks. I've been getting to know as much as I can about the bike, not just the good things, but the things I don't like about the bike too. And in this video, I'm going to bring you all those lessons I've learned about the bike. So if you're interested in the new Suzuki V-Strom 1050 XT, stick around, stay tuned, this video's for you. Okay, so this is my more in-depth look then at this bike, having, as I say, ridden it for the last couple of weeks. I've ridden it in all sorts of conditions, on all sorts of roads. I've been on motorways, I've been on A roads, B roads, I've ridden it at night, I've ridden it in the damp. Basically, so I can bring you all the sorts of information that you wouldn't necessarily find if you just did, say, a 1 hour test ride on one of these motorcycles. So without further ado, let's crack on and see how this bike operates in those various conditions. On faster roads and motorways, the V-Strom once again sort of comes into its own. Because it's got this pretty excellent weather protection on here, wind protection. The screen I've got in its upright position at the moment, and I've got a little bit of wind on the very sides of my shoulders. But here I am cruising like 70 miles an hour on the M40, and the wind is going over my helmet. I'm 5'8", so not a massive fella. If I attempt to stand up a little bit, I don't actually get into any turbulence for a little while, so I think this works probably for even larger people in terms of wind protection. Then of course you've got bags of power with this 1050 engine, so you've got ample oomph to overtake if you want to, like so you can easily keep up with the faster traffic. And it's quite a comfortable place to be as well if you're doing long journeys on motorways. I think the only potential downside is the seat is a little bit harder than I would like, a little bit of a softer seat, or maybe one of those sheepskin topper things, and you could do long days on motorways if you were, you know, wanted to kill the miles because you're going on tour or something. You could definitely do that. Alright, before we actually take the big V-Strom riding at night, let me just show you what the lights are like during the daytime. I'll just put the ignition on. Here we go. Here's the front then. So no matter what you think about the front design of this bike, you may like it or not. It's you know, it's kind of a subjective thing. What I do like is the fact that there is that single light, so it's not asymmetric. Sometimes you get these bikes that have two headlights and only one comes on. That annoys me. Anyway, daytime running light, that's the setup on the V-Strom, or dipped light if you like. To put the full beam, you use the button here. Look, you can either flick it back like that to flash the light. I don't know if you can see there flashing it, or you just press it forward like so for full beam, and that's what full beam looks like, very, very bright. Alright, let's turn the sunshine off then. Let's try it at night. Okay, as if by magic then, the sunshine, such that it was, is turned off. It's night time now. And in fact, I'll let you do a little secret. It's actually a completely different day. It's been a lovely day today, and you can see a beautiful clear summer's sky now. Anyway, it is dark, so I can check out what these lights are like. So here we are with the lights on dip at the moment, and well, I have to say, lights on motorcycles these days are pretty darn good, aren't they? So much better than they used to be. But this one on dip comes to quite an abrupt stop, quite close to. If I put it on a full beam, like so, the light is thrown out a lot further and makes it much more usable. So it's one of those bikes that really, if you can, you're going to want it on full beam. And when it is on full beam, it's absolutely perfect, this light. It's no worse than any modern car that I've used. The light spread is beautiful. Back down to dip, and yeah, it comes to an abrupt end a bit soon for my liking, so yeah, definitely keep it on full beam. So that's the headlight. The display itself doesn't have a night mode, the TFT. It's on this white on black situation anyway, as it is during the day, but it actually looks absolutely fine at night time. It's not too glary, I'm glad to say, so that's absolutely fine. Nice and clear to read, albeit a bit 1980s video game for my liking. And I guess the only other thing to say is switchgear. Not lit on the V-Strom, but then it's not lit on so many bikes these days. But again, it's not a particularly complicated bike in terms of the buttonage. There's not loads and loads of buttons to master, so it not being lit is not a problem. You know, once you've ridden the bike a few times, you get to know where the buttons are. So so no backlit, not an issue. So overall, riding the V-Strom at night, if you've got to do it, absolutely fine, but leave it on full beam. How about going on tour with the V-Strom 1050? Well, I think that would be a particularly good proposition actually. The bike is really comfortable for long distance riding. You can ride this on the motorways all day long to get the miles done, and you can get good luggage for the V-Strom as well as an option. I think it's 1300 quid. You can get top box and panniers for the bike, carry loads of stuff for a week's tour or whatever. As I mentioned before, great weather protection as well, so while you're scooting along the motorways or into routes to get to where you want to go, then you're going to be nice and warm and comfy. So yeah, no problem at all taking the big V-Strom touring. I think it'd be a great choice for that. No idea what an interroute is, by the way. Sort of a cross between an auto route and a interrail ticket. Anyway, it's something you use on tour. Okay, so on to practical matters then. These are things that people often ask me about bikes that I review. Why don't you just cover some of these practical things? So starting off with, what's it like to pump the tyres up? What can you get at the valves? Okay, well, checking out the valves on the V-Strom, you can see that they're not those angled ones, they're the right out ones. And although they've got these rather clever and fetching looking wheels, I like the fact that you've got spokes but the tyre's still tubeless. It does mean that you've got a bit of a raised rim here. It's quite hard to get at. You've got the brake disc there. Bit of a hassle actually to pump the rear tyre. The front one, again, you've got the same issue basically. You've got a straight down valve and you've got the disc slightly the way. I mean, no big deal, but I've used easier bikes to pump the tyres up, so that's that. The other thing is, what about lubing the chain? Well, the good news is it does have a centre stand on this bike, and I'll show you that in operation in a minute. But as far as the chain's concerned, around this side, you can see you've got a lot of chain guard and so on to get around. I mean, yeah, of course, you can lubricate it at this point on the centre stand. It'll be absolutely fine. So I don't think you're going to have any issues there. So another thing that people ask is, does the bike have a centre stand? I've already mentioned it does have a centre stand, obviously sitting down there. Let me just show you what it's actually like to use a centre stand. This is something that somebody recently put on a comment. Why don't you show how hard or easy it is to get the bike on the centre stand? So here's a little shot of me doing that. And I have to say, physically it is a big bike, but it's not that hard to get onto the centre stand. I mean, to be fair, I am used to getting my GS and my Goldwing on the centre stand, so pretty much any bike feels easy, but this, no big hassle getting on the centre stand. Another practical matter, how do you check the oil? Is it a dipstick or sight glass? Well, on the V-Strom, it is a sight glass. You see it's tucked right in there underneath this little bash plate, and no smart Alex saying it's empty at the moment because, of course, the bike is on its side stand. Another thing that often comes up is, what's the bike's seating position like? Because of course often I do all my videos just on my own. I'm a one-man band, so you see the view from my helmet or whatever, but you don't see what it's actually like for me sitting on the bike. So here's a little bit of B-roll of me sat on here. It's a very comfortable position, this one, I have to say. And as you can see, I can pretty much get my feet down both sides. I'm on the balls of my feet, but my feet are almost flat. I'm only a shorty. I'm 5'8" with a 32-inch leg, if that helps. But yeah, I feel perfectly at home on this. Although it's a relatively tall bike, you can get your feet firmly down, which is always a good thing. All right, another practical thing that people sometimes ask is, well, what's the storage like underneath the seat? Well, on the V-Strom, you can only easily take the rear part of the seat off. You stick the key in the usual way, and off she pops. If you want to take the front seat off, then you have to use an Allen key down here, which I haven't got to hand. In terms of space under the seat, you can see you've got a little bit of storage, which makes a change. Enough room to put, lamb chops, can put your sandwich in there. I've just got a V2 visor cleaner sponge here. A little bit of an advert. You can get these from Speedo Angels, one of the channel sponsors, but great thing to keep under your seat. But yeah, not an awful lot of room, but there is some storage room, which makes a change, because on many bikes there's absolutely nothing. So that's a plus point. All right, last couple of practical items on the V-Strom. Then number one, people ask what sort of fuel economy have I got out of the bike. Well, I've been averaging 55.1 miles per gallon since I've had the bike. That's according to the strip counter. I haven't actually emptied it, refilled it, worked it out that way, but that seems about right, so that seems all right. And then people always ask as well, what's it like for a pillion? Well, unfortunately, Mrs. Fly won't go on the back of any bike that doesn't have a top box, and I don't have a top box for this, so she didn't go on the back, so I can't speak from experience on this. But the rear seat, as you saw, is quite big, and it is quite padded. You've got these excellent grab handles on here as well. So actually, I imagine it's probably quite a nice place for a pillion perch, particularly if you do get a top box on there as well. So how about the V-Strom 1050 in the wet then? Well, as you can see, it's not a particularly wet day today. As luck would have it, during the time that I've had the bike, it hasn't rained, and there's no significant rain in the foreseeable future. At worst, it's a little bit drizzly and a little bit damp on the roads where it sort of spat a bit earlier. So I don't speak from personal experience really riding in the rain here, but because of the electronic suite on this bike, the thing is going to be as good as any bike can be in the wet. It's got traction control, lean angle traction control, ABS. The traction control has 3 levels, which I think are probably 1, 2 and off, something like that, but nonetheless the electronics are there to help you in the rain. The tyres on the bike, this one's fitted with Bridgestone Battle Axe Adventure tyres, which despite the names are predominantly on-road looking and have got a decent tread pattern. I've had absolutely no problems with them during the time I've been riding, but as I say, to date I've not ridden this in a deluge, but I absolutely think there'll be no problems riding the V-Strom 1050 in rain. You've got a good weather protection off this screen, you've got all the electronics there to help you. I think this bike would be absolutely fine in a downpour.
Okay, well I can tell you now actually it is good in a downpour. I recorded that segment a few days ago when the forecast said it's going to be dry forevermore, and in fact I got caught in a deluge this morning, which is why this bike looks so dirty at the moment. You can see we've still got the rain on the windscreen, so yeah, looking a bit dirty, so apologies for that, but it did give me a chance to ride the bike properly in properly scuddy weather, and I can report it's absolutely fine, no issues when it comes to riding the V-Strom in the rain.
So let's head into my favourite local car park here at Great Missenden Station to do my lugging about test. This is where I park the bike up, see what it's like to move from space to space in an attempt to simulate what it's like moving it sort of around your garage, that sort of thing. What's it like to live with in terms of lugging about. So let's stick it dead in the middle of this parking space, standard parking space. Find neutral, very easy to find neutral on this bike. Not had a problem with that, which isn't the case with all bikes. Alrighty, so here we are in the middle of the spot. We've got excellent grab handles here to get hold of the bike. Let's see what she's like turning circle wise. I have to say, getting it off the side stand, not a problem. It doesn't feel anywhere near as heavy as I thought it might do. I thought this might be a bit of a sort of top heavy feeling bike, but actually, as it goes, it's not too bad. Right, round we come, turning circle wise. Look at that, just beyond the middle of the second space. So I started in the middle of that one and came all the way around there to there. So actually pretty good turning circle that is. I've known better and I've known a lot worse. I'll put that in the sort of medium category for turning circle. But in terms of lugging it around, the weight, getting it off the stand, actually piece of cake, not too bad at all. Makes it an easy bike to live with. I like that. So what's the V-Strom like around town then? What's it like in the urban environment? Well, here I am at sort of knocking off time in High Wycombe, and I reckon she's pretty good in this sort of traffic environment actually, for a number of reasons. Number one, it's a very easy bike to ride, so it's quite light and flickable to move around, which is unusual for this sort of style of bike. The other thing is it's physically fairly big, and that might be counterintuitive as to why does that make it good in traffic. Well, I think it just gives the bike excellent conspicuity, i.e. other traffic sees you coming because you're on a big bike. And with these big wide handlebars as well, you've got plenty of leverage to nip through traffic, do a bit of filtering. It's not particularly wide, so you can nip through gaps quite easily. So yeah, somewhat counterintuitively, I think in town the V-Strom works.
Okay, so at the start of the video I said I'd bring you all the lessons I've learnt on the V-Strom, not just the good stuff but the bad stuff too, and having now ridden this for a bit, there are a few things about the bike I don't like. There's some good stuff as well, but we'll go through both lists, starting with the negatives. As usual, I've written these down so I don't forget anything. First thing I've written here is to do with the windscreen and the fact that you can't actually adjust the screen on the move. Let me show you the adjuster here. Look, it's on the front. It's actually quite easy to use. You just lift this and then you can move the screen up and down, but clearly that's not something you can do when the bike is on the move, so that's a bit of a downside. You can adjust it, just not on the move, so that's the negative. Next thing I've noted down is the foot pegs get in the way when you're trying to move the bike around. So where these are positioned is exactly where my legs fall. So when I'm trying to paddle the bike around to move it in and out of the garage or whatever, I find that these are hitting on my ankles, so that's a bit of a pain. You do get used to it, but they're just in slightly the wrong position, exactly where my legs fall. Right, next on my list, I've said basic LCD looks dated. Now just check this out when you start this up. Hopefully you can see that without too much reflection. I mean, the screen on here actually is pretty good. It's got everything you need, including a proper fuel gauge. But I have to say, this presentation just looks like something out of the 1980s. I'm not keen on that, and it does rather date the bike, even though the bike's brand new this year. So another little negative that applies to this, the XT being the top of the range bike, you know, with all the bells and whistles, it doesn't come as standard with heated grips. So this one's got no heated grips. And in this country, I think they're an absolute must. I think they are an option, but nonetheless, it would have been nice to have seen that, you know, given you've got all the electronics on this bike, heated grips, I think, should be towards the top of the list of wants on a motorcycle, particularly in this country. Okay, to the final point on my negatives list for the V-Strom, and that is, well, it's subjective really, but I don't think the looks of the bike are quite right. It's quite angular, and again, I don't know, there's something about it, the square headlight, the way that this beak works. I mean, I don't know, I think I might have preferred the looks of the old bike, and that wasn't exactly an eye-catcher. Again, very much subjective, you may disagree with me, and of course, you're not looking at the bike while you're riding it, but the looks don't do it for me. And then the other thing I would say is, as a ride, it's not very exciting. Again, it's not meant to be an exciting bike. It's not a sports bike. It's not an off-roader. It's a practical day-to-day bike. So yeah, I would say not that exciting. Sounds lovely, but yeah, looks and the excitement of the ride, bit lacking on it. So that's it for the negatives. All right, key positives then that I've noted down. There's lots of positives for the bike, but the things that I particularly like about it, number one, the engine. I've written down here, grunt, sound and character. It's this big twin unit, and it really does sound nice, and it goes pretty well. It's got all the torque where you need it. You wind it on, and off she hops. So I really do like that. It has got a characterful engine, and it sounds brilliant. Love that. Probably my favourite thing about the bike, actually. Next thing about the bike that I love, and I've already mentioned to a degree on this video, but this seat on here is pretty comfortable. It's not just the seat, but the whole seating position. So where the pegs are, albeit they do get in the way of your legs a bit, as I mentioned, the width of the handlebars, it's a very comfortable place to be. So the comfort on the bike is a definite big positive as far as I'm concerned. Next up, I do love the wheels on here. I mentioned the tubeless spoked wheels. I also love this blue rim colour. I don't know why more manufacturers don't give their wheels a bit of colour, so I do like that on the bike. In fact, I quite like the colour scheme overall. And then the other thing I've noted on here, top-notch electronics. Now, I'm not a massive fan of electronics on bikes, generally speaking, but if you're going to have them, then this has got all the ones that you need, and it's not bumping the cost up a huge amount. In fact, that's the final big positive that I've mentioned here. It comes in at $9,999 for the base model, a little bit more for the XT, which this is, but it's an excellent value bike. So yeah, comfortable, practical, good value, great bike.
So there we have it, folks. That's my in-depth review of the big Suzuki V-Strom 1050 XT. Really enjoyed riding the bike these last couple of weeks. It's actually a very good machine. I mean, I haven't described it as exciting. I mean, it's not a sports bike or anything like that, but it is what I would class as a proper practical motorcycle. If you need something to get you to work every day, then this is a bike that's definitely worth considering. Great value for money. For me, really, the only serious thing to get past are the looks, but that's entirely, you know, a matter of opinion. You might like the looks of the bike, in which case that's not a problem. There really is nothing serious to not like about the bike. The pricing's good, it's a comfortable ride, it sounds good, the engine's sweet, cheap to buy, or relatively cheap to buy, handles nicely, good wind protection. Yeah, it's all good. Been impressed with the V-Strom. I look forward to trying his little brother, the 650, maybe in due course. So if you've not done so already, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and hit the like button, or even the dislike button if you didn't like the video. And I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Until then, this has been the Mr. Flyer. Cheerio.
Okay, so on to practical matters then, the sorts of things that people... Let's do it again. Okay, what about the horn on the bike? Well, again, this is something that is quite difficult for me to demonstrate because, let's not again, let's do it again. So another question that comes up often is, what's the seating position like? Because you only ever see me actually, you know, on the bike from the helmet's point. Let's do it again. For, well, you know, you're sat upright, your legs are slightly forward, but it's a cut. Let's do that all again. Getting the negatives out of the way. No one likes to whinge you, so let's do those first. All right, first thing, let's do that again.